Hey, hello everyone. I'm Holly Elissa Bruno, and I'm delighted to be joined by Priscilla and Denise, who will introduce themselves in a moment. You have just joined Trauma Survivors Walking Each Other Home, and we meet every week and invite you to join us. You can join us by either tuning in, joining us. You can come on with us. You can be visually here. You can be here in the chat, or you can join us after the fact, whatever works for you. Our purpose is to share spontaneously from the heart, from the soul, from our life experience, how we can live our lives fully. As trauma survivors, we have learned that to pretend we were traumatized doesn't do anything but hurt us because the body keeps the score. So what we do is tell the truth about how we're doing each week and how we can help each other. And that's why this is called Walking Each Other Home, because we don't rehearse this. We talk about what we're facing in our lives, we share that with each other, and we see what we might have in common and what you might have in common. So if you can join us in the chat, please do. We'll take into account what you're saying. And for today, we're going to check in, the three of us. I'm going to ask Denise and or Priscilla to say just one point maybe about what people can do if they feel triggered during this conversation. I, for example, have something to drink. So, okay, Denise, want to go ahead?
I always recommend having water next to you, and it can really help you get present, get current, and be healed.
I want
I'm
to tell us
Denise
a little bit,
Rokicki, by the way.
and tell us about your life just briefly, Denise.
My life has been a preschool teacher with the Head Start program. I gave myself a good childhood there, and I was molested as a child 4 times before my evil stepfather started molesting me. So I have a lot of experience with trauma and healing and triggering and all these mental health things, issues.
Glad you're here, Denise. And
Thanks.
Priscilla, how about you, hon?
So I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to put this. I was trying to do this streamline, but it's not working. I thought we would be, but no.
We'll get it. We'll get it.
We'll play a lot of time. So one of the things that I like to put people is, on validate your feeling, drink water, and understand this is all a process. And when we validate our feelings, we say like, I hear you. You're feeling that. It's true because this topic is sensitive. And drink some water, maybe take a deep breath, perhaps something that you could release some of that energy on, and think about also be kind. Right? It's not you, it's the feelings of what happened to you.
Thank you so much. And Denise, I want to ask you one other thing. There is an online resource for people that they can check at any time. Can you tell us about that?
I sure can. If you have a smartphone, you can just turn it on, touch your Google search, and say incest survivors warm line or a trauma warm line. And they will give you a phone number either right there in your area or anywhere in the United States, and people will listen, believe you, and be helpful.
Thank you. What Priscilla and Denise have said is crucial. Number one, to be in touch with my feelings again is painful, but it is a great healing. Trauma survivors are taught as children, don't talk, don't trust, and don't you dare have feelings. So a lot of adults end up being dissociated from our feelings. Also, asking for help, simply asking for help is a way of opening the heart and the mind to the help that's there. And about being heard, here's the truth. I accept what you say because it's true for you. It does not have to be my reality. I hear you, though, because you have experienced that. And what children who've been traumatized need to know is that they are safe. First, you are safe. Second, I see you. I see you as a unique person. Third, I hear you. I'm listening to you. And fourth, I believe you. If a child tells you she's hurting, if a child tells you somebody's doing something that doesn't feel good, please listen to the child without judging the child. It's the fear of judgment that stops so many of us from recovering from the trauma. So here's what we're going to do today. And today is mid-July, my favorite month of the year. Mid-July, if you're in the United States, we are in an administration that is radically different from any other one. And the guarantees of civil rights, et cetera, we had counted on are not here. I can say that as an attorney. Due process, et cetera, all of those things that we counted on, we cannot absolutely count on, and that affects each one of us on the screen, and it affects you. So what we're going to do first is just share about a moment in our lives recently that really moved us, that we knew was meaningful. Maybe I didn't know in the moment what it meant long term, but I knew in the moment that something powerful was happening and that it related to my depth, to my soul. So we're going to share that as if we're just walking each other home. And we're going to listen to each other, like Priscilla said. We're going to listen to each other. And we're going to hear what we hear and pick up from there. And we invite you, as you're listening, what is that one thing? Maybe you have many, maybe you have none. But if you think about it or reflect on it, feel on it, what is one moment, one experience, make it as finite as you can, that touched you, that you said, I know this is meaningful. I know this matters. And so let's start with Priscilla, who I think has had a number of these experiences of late. Can you tell us about that moment, Priscilla? Just to give us the context somewhat so we can see ourselves there. But tell us about the moment where something touched you and you had strong feelings about it, and what questions that raised.
So one of the things that happened to me over the weekend is I was in a neighborhood event, and as we were leaving the event, we started hearing some inappropriate, discriminative, it felt like that, words like Trump, come get the immigrants are here, we don't want you here. And that was very, so usually I'm the person who's like, hey, that's not nice, or this is where we lived and we are diverse, especially in the town where I live in, we are diverse. Like even the presidents that were here, their wives. So that was, but it made me wonder, like, is this now the appropriate time to talk about this? Who has am I in the right place? Especially me feeling like I was that 1% in a community event. So it felt, yeah, and felt bad. It felt not bad. It triggered me. I was feeling anxious. I started to feel like, am I safe here? What would happen if I was to say something? Would it make me? And it was, all these feelings erupted and made me feel like it's not because it has ever happened to me. It's the first, maybe second time I experienced something like this, but it was the first time it felt this heavy on me. And it made me realize we are living some tough times. And it made me realize that what's happening in my surrounding is somewhat impacted me. It's creating a ripple effect. Yeah. So
Thank you for sharing that. And that is so hard to tell and hard to hear. And yet it's happening everywhere. In a way, I'm surprised it's only the second time for you, because this is happening so much more. So let me just understand, and then we'll go to Denise. But you were in your community, which is outside of Boston, Massachusetts, and you went to a concert?
yes. I went
And
to,
were there lots of diverse people there, or were you know what happened?
so it was mostly the people that were there were white. Um, it was so Quincy, Massachusetts, celebrating the 400th of veterans. And some of the biggest things that has happened in the Quincy of city. So there's like a lot of things happening, but most of the people were there were white veterans. And yeah, I want to say that I was probably, if not the only, but one of the only Latinas, and my husband and my son there.
And how old is your son?
My son is 6 years old. And that was the scariest part, because one of the things that I said, if something was to happen to us, if we was to be attacked, if something was to erupt from this, and I also worried about the other person as well who was yelling these things, because it also could have went against him, especially after speaking to my neighbors and some of my communities. They were like, Priscilla, you should have just said something. We would have hold your back. Like, you're safe here. We love you here. You represent us. We need you here. And that made me feel good, but it also made me feel bad for the other person, because if something was to happen to him, the effect of my son would have still witnessed violence.
Right.
He would have still see something inappropriate. He would have still
Right.
wonder, like, why is this happening? And
Hate. You would see hate.
exactly,
In, inappropriate hate.
absolutely, and things that can, as you guys know, it can carry on him for the rest of his life.
Yes.
Right.
And not just my son. I worried also about the elders that were there. I worried about the other children that were there. And in my head, I'm like, oh my God, what are we projecting to the society? Like, who are we? You know, and
I hear
that
you. And I'm wondering, your neighbors, no one spoke. And it was fascinating that they expected you as the person that was supposed to speak. No one spoke. And that says something, well, it says a lot, but one thing it talks about is fear, the fear that so many people live in. And also the expectation that the person who's being harmed is this person that's supposed to make it right. That's
Right.
it's never worked, but it's been a long-term expectation in this country. So thank you. We will come back to that. And people that are listening, if you have responses, as Priscilla spoke, reflect on them. And now we're going to invite Denise and also the folk listening. What is one moment, like Priscilla just shared, where you knew something powerful was happening that may have caused you to feel unsafe? And when a trauma survivor feels unsafe, it takes us back to when we were initially traumatized. And that's scary for most of us. Denise, how about you? What spoke with you this week that was a powerful moment?
I'm just really feeling sad about Priscilla's experience. And, because I have been with Latino and Latina teachers and maestras and so there in California protesting myself for certain initiatives or whatever. And it felt so safe and empowering to be with them and to see se puede. Yes, we can. And so it just really hurts me that this is not our country right now, that the emboldened people are the people who want to complain, who think somehow Latinos are taking money from them and taking opportunity from them. It just really makes me so sad.
Thank you so much. And you yourself are part of groups that are taking it on the chin even more now. Is that true?
Yeah, yeah. Yep.
And do you want
I
to
mean,
talk about that a little bit if you've experienced that
I haven't
recently?
really felt any, you know, growing pressure or like, they're going to end marriage for gay and lesbian people or anything like that. I haven't felt it directly, but I do feel Priscilla not feeling safe in her country. I just feel that, and it makes me so sad.
Yeah. And Denise, thank you so much for sharing this, because in you not feeling what's happening with the LGBTQ community and people, right? One of the things when I moved to Massachusetts that my father told me is you have to be careful because you're moving to a state where they allow these things. And the reason that this was said to me is because at just pre-adolescent, my son have feminist behaviors according to the Latino culture. He's gay, by the way. And at that time, the community had already planted this on him. And my father
Right.
already had this idea that me moving here was approving to it, which it was approved before me moving here.
Right.
That's one of the things I always told my son. It's not about them, it's about us. And my responsibility is to tell you how much I love you. But the reason I bring this up is because this just brought me back of that what my father, like, I left from Puerto
Right.
Rico. I leave from a place looking for a place where I felt accepted, where I felt part of the community. And I always felt like this, like I when I speak about and I share my testimony about how I made it to Massachusetts, it's always very enlightening. And it was always very welcoming and still very welcoming. But there's people that can project these things, and
Right.
yeah.
Thank you. So I'm going to also add an experience, and it will be different. And walking each other home, each one of us, as a trauma survivor, has different things that trouble us, but at the same time, we've got things in common. So as I'm talking about what I experienced, I'm going to invite you to see, is there anything that the three of us have in common? And how about you, your experience? What do you have that connects with us? So I am flying to Tampa Wednesday, and Thursday and Friday, I'm giving a keynote. And I have spoken to groups of people since I was 25 and I'm 79. And often I love it once I get there. But here is the trauma-related issue. I still have a sadness and a fear, because when I don't just speak at groups of people. As a trauma survivor, I'm not at all comfortable being a sage on the stage. I have information to deliver, but I know that people learn when they take that information in and they apply it to themselves. So I'm being invited to keynote and not interact with my audience. And that feels strange to me. And what I'm being told is, we just want to hear your wisdom. We want to hear your insights. And so there it is. There it is. I'm a person who has researched a lot, reflected a lot. 4 times a week, I meet with trauma survivors. I write all the time about being a trauma survivor, whether it's poetry or it's published articles or books. And yet I'm walking into this and I feel afraid. Why on earth am I feeling afraid? And I wonder about you as you're listening. Are there things that you do and you know how to do, but you don't want to just go into automatic pilot or pro forma? I want to be present to this group of people. I want to read this group of people and find out what it is, where are they? 93% of how we communicate is done without a word being spoken. So when Priscilla was there in that environment, even before that person started to speak, there was energy in that person and around that person that said something's going to happen here. Because we can feel the emotion in people 5 to 10 feet around us. So I'm raising this question because I wonder sometimes, do trauma survivors, and I'll only speak for myself, will I always have this question? It's not so much, am I worthwhile, even though that was, I was told I was worth nothing. Not so much that, although I think it's about, here it is. I think it's about safety. I think today, to speak out, unlike 10 years ago, when I was speaking out all the time, or 30 years ago when I was speaking out all the time, today when I speak out and I say something personal, I always offer people boundaries. I put up my boundaries, but I'm not sure anymore that when I speak from the heart, that will be okay. And why am I saying that? Because so many of us are learning to cover up our hearts. So many of us are learning to protect ourselves. And there it is. I'll finish with this. This is what I learned as an infant, a child, all the way through my dependency time on my family. I learned I was never safe. I was never safe. And so to express my voice was tantamount to offering to be beaten up, which I was, offering to be silenced, which I was. And so there's the question, my friends, for me is, where can my safety come from in the moment when two things are happening? There might be a threat from the outside, but there's also a threat from the inside. And the inside is that old feeling of be afraid, be very afraid. So, folk listening, I invite you to consider, what is it that you're hearing from the three of us? Whether it's Denise's empathy and having been an ally in this situation that Priscilla talked about, whether it's me talking about something that I shouldn't be talking about. You know, I'm supposed to be professional and not have a problem. Bull. Bull. So let us begin. Let's go to, I'm going to ask all three of us rather than to get specifically into one of our stories. Let's look at, as we heard each other, what is it about trauma survivors that makes it a challenge to be in an ordinary situation, like going to a concert, like speaking in front of groups of people, like hearing someone tell a story of vulnerability? What is it in us that distinguishes us and that says, I'm a trauma survivor and I've got some choices to make right now? And whichever one of you wants to respond, what is it in us that we have that gives us a special way of seeing all of these things?
I think one thing that I noticed when you were talking about your fear of speaking here coming up because they asked you not to be interactive, I think that comes from, they're putting limits on you. You want to be authentic, and your authentic way is to connect, and you're going to connect whether they tell you not to or not. That's what I'm thinking. They
So
shouldn't
there you go. Mhm.
limit you like that, because that's your gift and talent, is connecting. So they're saying, don't be you, but give us your wisdom.
Thank you. And what about Priscilla? Is the same thing true about is there a similar thing going on with her?
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. Don't, the individual people who know you, like you, love you, want you there. But those that see you as other are, wanting to call you names or, say things like go home.
The
And
ones
home
that
doesn't mean right around the corner. Home
No, it
means
doesn't mean your apartment or your condo. It means back to Puerto Rico or whatever.
and to make it fair, right? The way I see it, it's like when I see these type of things, I'm thinking like, who hurt you? Why so much hate? Like I honestly started seeing people who put limits, kind of like what Holly is saying, and what are you in or project these type of things is people who they themselves have unresolved issues. So they have to create these authoritarian or feel or in their ego. They're in the ego, and coming out of their ego, it's hard. Because I'm pretty sure if that guy was to know me, he would love me as much as everybody else though.
Right. It's the power over patriarchy, you know, the power over, and the way that we get, the way that you can maladaptive get power over is by putting others down. And that is the narcissist tool, you know, to put rules on you, to put limitations on you, to view you in a negative way, you know, for the goodness that you have. Oh, we all just have to be able to do our goodness.
Yeah. And I wanna say, going a little
By the way, Priscilla, I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Denise, can you hear Priscilla pretty well?
I can hear her pretty good. I have my volume up, but
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I'll get
thank
closer.
you.
Can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you.
One of the things that, and going back a little bit of what Holly's saying and her going to Florida and some of the things that we are experiencing and like what our body is telling us, right? It's fair to say as trauma survivors, our body is constantly telling us something. Those who study trauma believe that we don't ever completely heal from trauma. We just learn how to basically identify those alerts, those red flags in our body. When I say red flags, is sweating, heart, like even these conversations can make our audience feel something,
right.
right? Because they're like, oh my God, they identify. So all these
Itching.
feelings, yes, all these feelings that our body starts showing up in moments of distress is trauma. And we just learn how to, like Holly said, like go like in safe mode. And we think about what can we do in these moments to make us feel better. I always go back is identifying it, right? Another thing is one of the things that somebody said to me.
Sweetie, let me ask you a question because people listening might wonder a bit more. You always say start with identifying it. Can you give us an example so that someone listening might know, well, what does Priscilla mean by that? What does she mean? What's she identifying and what is she doing with that?
Yes. So identifying, it's knowing your environment, right? Understanding what this environment is telling you and what is your body exhibiting or experiencing in the moment. For instance, people who are in large crowd may start feeling, I don't want to be here. This is not safe. And sometimes they may say why, right? But something that happened throughout their life, at one point, something happened that these particular spaces is creating this. It could be the smell, something that could smell disgusting. It could be the touch. It could be like some people can't touch slime, or it could be a color. One of the things that I say when I meet people is, please tell me the whatnots. And they're like, what do you mean? Please tell me if wearing red causes you alert. It triggers you. And they say, Priscilla, never nobody has asked me this. It's important for people to feel safe around me, especially as a trauma therapist, right? So I want to know if the smell, if the touch, if I say something. One of the things that I'm not very good at is pronouncing sometimes names. And we sit there and please help me how to say your name right. And that could be a trigger. So it could be different environment, a tone of voice. A lot of people will ask me why I don't go to the Spanish, Latino, some churches, because they yell. And the word, it's empowering, it's great, it's amazing, it's right? But the yelling,
No good for you.
makes my heart beat through the whole service. So that's what I mean.
And when you talked about, this is a very specific question, but the first time we were together, Priscilla, you said, you spoke about a family member who you could identify or not. And you said he is a red bone. Remember that red bone evangelical? And I was thinking about my time in Brazil where I was staying at a bed and breakfast, and at night, the whole street, I mean, there was a church, people were inside, but the whole street would come alive with all of this praising. But it wasn't just praising, it was the preacher, and it was a man saying, essentially, even though I didn't understand a lot of the Portuguese, most of the Portuguese, there was a lot of hellfire and brimstone stuff. You know, you're going to go to hell. You got to do this. You got to do that. And I could feel that. I come from a family of evangelicals who were saying you're either going to hell or not. And not that many of us were chosen to go to heaven. So your experience, that traumatized me, because I was clear that I was one of those that wasn't going to make it to heaven because I was different. And it's back to what Denise is saying. If you're different, you can take it. And part of this program is, how do we help those of us that are different? Because how do we help us find our own safety? So when you talk about not wanting to go to one of those churches, even though the word is wonderful, what is it is it the yelling? What is it that is not safe for you?
So in the Latino culture, I still will go places and people will still talk about sexuality and what I consider as homophobia. And it's when they're not in agreement or they don't have the freedom. So I believe that part of what starts happening with me, it's feeling judged, it's feeling minimized. There's times that people will start saying, oh, in my own family, I had to start saying, yes, I study psychology, but that doesn't mean I have it all together. Like, I'm gonna fail. I'm human. I study it, but doesn't mean that I'm perfect, because people will start using your characteristic, the way you live, the way you decide to defeat barriers against you. And you start wondering. I believe going to the Latino churches and the yelling will create those triggers and will remind me of all the things that were said to me that I basically defeated. Right? Everything that I was meant to be, it's what I continue hearing, and it hurts. It hurts that leaders are utilizing these platforms to create confusion. Because I'm great. My son is great. And he was actually the first one to graduate in the family. He went to college. So everything that happens. So the yelling, it reminds me also of this narcissistic red bone Pentecostal culture, which when I studied religion, I was able to say, oh, now I can understand. But how can they, and one of the things that I always said after studying religion, I believe everybody should take at least psychology 101. Because when you think about modeling the faith, they're doing everything contrary to it.
Right.
But yeah.
So one of the things and Denise, as you're watching, listening, what are you feeling?
I feel in agreement that, it's that patriarchal power over technique that is triggering. I mean, that's what made us comply or got us manipulated into being abuse survivors. Well, unless it's in your family, I mean, then they just take what they want. But other people, it's power over that is so scary.
And when you're young or you're in a certain space, or like, for instance, me as a Latina, like I remember, on Saturday, I was like, if he only knew, right? If he only knew. I'm not illegal. I'm a professional. I have my things. If he only knew. But I remember, and now I know. So what I want to say, and for those who are listening to us, it's very important that once you identify what you were not supposed to, once you're able to identify those feelings that come and erupt, know that you have the potential. And this is what we're here for, right? To help you, to develop, to understand, to feel empowered of understanding that you do have the potential to make a difference. And that doesn't define all the greatness that you already have and all that you can become. Because I think that those symptoms that we feel is because of what happened to us. And I started feeling, and lately I'm starting to feel more comfortable in telling people, hey, my English may not be the best, but I'm going to make sure my message gets across. I'm going to make sure that you guys understand what I'm trying to say, and that I'm going to advocate for what's right in the spaces that I need to advocate for what's right. And I'm going to do what I have to do. I'm not going to shut down. And when those feelings come, I'm going to remind those feelings that I'm going to validate and find something within that space that I can remind myself and use it in favor. For like Holly, I could just say, like, in that moment when you're feeling probably, and tell me if there's anything that I don't share that you think that that you have used in certain spaces, or even Denise, like when you're feeling like, oh my God, I'm about to go into this room, there's going to be 100,000 of people. Like right now we feel comfortable because we don't really know who's listening to us. Right. So this is our comfort zone. But if we was to be in front of 100 people sharing this, it will be a whole different story.
Right.
But if we put like some blindfoldness, imaginary some blindfoldness, and also know that they dare to listen, that they waiting for it, that your story, it's valuable to them. And yeah, and even saying like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit nervous. Because once you tell them, I'm feeling a little bit nervous, this is new, so please bear with me, they tend to be like, now you just calm down the audience, and now just go do what you're going to do. Great.
She does great at it.
Yes. Thanks, guys. You know, what I've learned is true over the years, the decades, is that when I speak the truth from my heart, without judgment, it's not like one up speaking the truth. It's like, this is my truth. And I invite you to share yours if you feel safe. The room goes silent because people are relieved. Most people are relieved to be in a place where they can just say, somebody's being authentic. Being authentic makes all the difference. But what I'm feeling here somewhat is that authenticity, being authentic, is not quite as safe as it was before. I mean,
right.
You hear me?
Yes.
Denise, you're talking about the patriarchy, and I have so many times voted for women. I mean, I voted for Shirley Chisholm. I lived in North Carolina when Shirley Chisholm was running for president. I said, this is great. I love it. I'll remember this. And then I voted for Hillary Clinton. And then I voted for Kamala. And I thought, how can this not happen? How can Kamala not get elected? And she didn't.
She didn't.
She didn't. And I don't know if it's daily, but I face a lot of people feeling, it's not just men, women too, feeling it's okay to be cruel. There's permission to be
That's what we talked about
inappropriate.
earlier. Yeah.
The hidden agenda.
The hidden agenda comes right out, and
they're empowered to be evil.
it's okay to be nasty.
Yeah. They are encouraging nastiness. You know,
How do we raise children with that, Denise? I heard, and Priscilla too, I heard a woman saying, well, I'm in favor of this candidate because I know he says all these things, but he really means well for America. And then her little son says, I want to touch a woman when I want to touch the girls. How do you explain to a child some things are okay, some things are not okay? That lack of clarity, I think, gives permission for trauma to happen again. Because anytime a woman is not taken seriously and is physically threatened, That's traumatizing. And one thing we haven't mentioned here is, and each one of us has this, there's the intergenerational epigenetic trauma that's passed down. My Sicilian grandmother was raised in a convent in Caltanissetta, Sicily. No one has ever said, why was this woman raised in a convent? But there's a story there. It's a story I may never know. But then she had an arranged marriage to my grandfather. And he was a narcissist and he was violent. She was pregnant 20 times. What was her story? And did she ever get a chance to express it? And does she want to? Do our ancestors want to speak through us? I think so. Do you ever feel that? Do you ever feel like the women that went before you or the people that went before you want you to be able to say what they could not say?
Interesting. I told Denise, I feel like we're living back into like 1940s and like, right. And we have a responsibility to say stuff, right? We have a responsibility in the spaces that we are to talk about it, which I'm so thankful and gratitude to be in this space because we're sharing it with hundreds of people. And one of the things that you said, Holly, is like, how do we tell our children? How do we tell people? And one of the things is there's always conversations, right? But are they really grasping it when it's just maybe me, right? And the other third is it's inappropriate and it's the peer pressure and it's a lot. Just recently, and we're almost have to wrap up, but I just want to share like just recently in Puerto Rico there was this guy who killed the abuser of his daughter. His daughter was in a domestic violence and he killed her. And the whole island, they did this GoFund to bail him out. The whole island was speaking about it because they actually said in Puerto Rico, at least there's a woman dying at least weekly on a handsmith in the hands of a man. So this man said, I'd rather my daughter see me in jail than for me to see her in a casket. And it's a big thing because what the community is saying is, and approving why he did this is because the law has conditioned people to feel that they can make abuse to women and they could walk out. Women do not want to speak about the abuse because as soon as they report it, this man is walking out. They don't feel that they're defending them. They're feeling betrayed. They feel they're being silent.
Just like Donald Trump being allowed to be president, even though he has 34 felony accounts of abuse.
And fraud. And so when you have this type of people doing these type of things, you start losing trust to the legal system. You don't know what is right and what is wrong. So we have to protect ourselves.
And if the law doesn't help us stay safe, then we lose faith in everything. And I'm noticing that there's a movement. I don't know if you guys have heard about it. It's to have these vans to go in where ICE is often kidnapping people. You know, in Massachusetts, I don't know if you heard about this, Denise, but there was a high school volleyball player in Milton, Massachusetts. He's an honor student. He's a good guy. Everybody likes him. And they picked him up on his way to volleyball practice for doing nothing except from where he was not born. Yes, exactly. And when masked people, they don't even have to show their identity.
Right.
Do that. Terror and fear of trauma, revisiting trauma comes up, and then people feel like this becomes the new norm. So Priscilla, what you're talking about with the law, this fact just keeps coming back to me because it sticks in my heart. And the fact is that until 1993, and there were some states in America where a man could rape his wife, and the Supreme Court of the United States had said, a man's home is his castle. Man can do whatever he wants. Now, in what you're saying is, and I wanted to hear it differently, but I listened to what you were saying. You're saying that many people believe it's okay. A man has that right. And here's a father who's saying you do not have the right to do that to her. Are they defending the father? Or are they defending the man who did the harm? And what
I
kind of
heard that
message?
they're defending the father.
But yeah,
That's
he's
what I heard.
he's out.
They
The
are.
father is out.
Yeah.
The whole community, like Puerto Rico, this came in the news here and everything. He is out. They raised more than $70,000 to get him out, right? And I remember writing about it because some people, there was. So I wrote about the collective trauma and what happened
Yes.
in the passion of the heat of passion of the reactive and how the brain blocks and respond in certain spaces to defend what they think it's right. This man was devastated, and right now he's also going to carry the trauma of his decision. But it's just like you don't have like right now. If I would have responded on Saturday, what could have happened? I'm in a way I'm grateful that I was able to stay regulated, right? Because one of the things that we know is as long if we're able to control our emotions, we're able to control the environment we're in. Now, if we don't control our emotions, we don't know what those ripple effect can cause.
And that in itself is a killer because some of us come from cultures or genders or orientations where having our emotions, for me, being in touch with my emotions gives me information I need to survive. I need to be in touch with my emotions and I need to express my emotions. And then off I went to law school and all these other places where emotion is not just frowned upon, it's seen as inferior. Intellectually inferior. If I talked about how I felt, men made fun of that. So what I'm concerned about here is I hear what Priscilla is saying. I get to make choices about my emotions. Fred Rogers said, what do I do with the mad that I have? Well, over the years, I have taught myself, and I know each one of you and people listening too, we've taught ourselves to, the common term now is what regulate our emotions. But what I've taught myself to do is a spiritual thing. When I'm feeling anger, I channel that anger up through from my soul, through my heart, into my voice. And I say very clearly and strongly, and usually quite logically, with an edge of lyricism, this is the truth. And that voice is like a clarion because I'm saying my emotion. I'm saying it in an acceptable way, but I'm saying it. What I don't like at all is that we still live in a culture, and Denise, back to it, the patriarchy. Feelings are scary. Well, come on, there's a whole panoply of feelings. So many feelings. I was raised, females can't have anger. Only the males or crazy people can have anger. Children cannot have anger. How healthy is that?
Not.
Are you guys from cultures where it was okay for a girl child to be angry?
No. And also my family, big girls don't cry. Because we had one sister that was a big crier and big emoting all the time, and she ruined a lot of experiences or, put a lot of darkness in where we wanted light. And so we were to repress all feelings.
And to tolerate. It was to tolerate because
Yes.
and deal with it because they were preparing us to be the woman of the house. And the woman of the house is to not cry about it, deal with it because you're the woman of the house.
Right.
So what does that mean to you to be the woman of the house today? Because we're all women of our houses.
Is to be dependable. It's really important. That's the one characteristic that I really try to be for myself is dependable. I just want to be able to depend on myself.
For me, it means
So that's the woman of the house. I gotcha.
yes, and for me, being the woman of the house is understanding that I have the power to manage and at least my environment. That this environment is mine, and that it's okay. I can delegate things to be calm.
I'm interested in what you're both saying because in my Sicilian culture, the woman of the house was to be subservient, was to be obedient, was to do the things and never ask for much. That was a phrase. I don't
Yep.
ask for much.
Be ladylike.
That's right, honey. Another phrase was,
Pretty,
well,
pretty.
she's, yeah, honey. But another phrase was, well, she has her heart, your mother has her heart set on that. You know, your mother doesn't ask for much. She's
Right.
just busy making sure everything in the house, everything's in its place. The children are clean. The children are obedient. The children are doing what they're supposed to do in school. And the woman isn't supposed to have any needs or wants.
Right.
She's supposed to look good. I mean, it was not a pretty picture for self-expression. So the woman of the house didn't, I mean, yes, we could say that the woman had certain power over raising the children. But in my culture, it was you raise the children so they will fit in as obedient kids in school. They will fit in as respectful kids at church. They will fit in at family. So it wasn't like the woman could do self-expression.
Right.
It was like that was forbidden.
Holly,
I remember a time when, go ahead,
oh,
Priscilla.
I'm sorry, but in the Puerto Rican culture, when I was being brought up, that's what it was. Like at 12, I started to learn how to cook, and in the religious community is I was supposed to be submissive, right? But one of the things that I remember when I was when I was quote unquote rebellious, I started one of the things that I told my mom and my dad is you guys raised me in both worlds, Puerto Rico and the United States. And in the United States, I developed the culture that we have a voice. And so I was like, maybe I'm more American than Puerto Rican because I'm not dealing with this. I was born in the country of freedom. So I have the freedom to speak. I have the freedom to work. I have the freedom to advocate. So there we go.
Get a credit card.
I got a credit card. I get to spend my own money. So I'm not rebellious. I'm American.
Right. And I was
And
going to say that too.
Yeah, go ahead.
When I was 12 years old, I looked at my mom and I was like, I don't want this. I don't want to be a housewife. I don't want to be the wife. I don't want to have kids. I was like, the woman of the house is not at all appealing to me. But in growing and learning in 67 years of life, now I know that I am the woman of my house, but it's just right here.
I find the irony here is that we came Puerto Rican, Sicilian, Polish, whatever we are, we came to a point where we felt, I have a voice. I have a right to speak. And then came 2025.
Right. They're telling us to shut up again.
And Denise and I are out there protesting all the time. Priscilla, you're doing everything you can to work with families so that those girls and boys have their own voice. And yet, here's what I experience in my body. I want to ask you to, when you're reminded of the past prevailing, what does that do? Thanks, Denise. Actually, yeah, you're right. We probably have a couple minutes left because I think we started 10 minutes late, but if you got to go, you got to go. Anyway, when old trauma comes back and it's the old voice again, shut up. Don't be true to yourself. Cover yourself up. How do you guys, as trauma survivors, how do we say to that, no, I'm not going back? And is it possible? I see so many people hiding out today. And yet when I go to protest or I speak up at trauma survivors meetings and just tell the truth, I see some people relieved and other people quivering.
Right.
So what's your take on that? How can we be healing trauma survivors? And we can end with this question. How can we be healing ourselves as trauma survivors and speaking out for trauma survivors at a time when we are being reminded, shut up?
Yeah, we have to seek community, seek groups like this where we can be truthful, where we can be genuine, and find community. Really, find community that is supportive and empowering, and that like-minded.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you said that, Denise, to find the community, because there is power in the community, and they're in people that are in alignment with what you believe in, and that you're dear to them and love you for who you are with everything you bring. One of the things that I remember in some of my trauma transitions, right? I call it transition because I was blooming, growing. It was, I would look at the sun, and it was a reminder that every day the sun comes out is a new opportunity. And when the rain can't stay forever. And as trauma survival, every day that goes by, guess what? It's a day we don't have to look back, and we made it. And we
Right.
made it. So I remember I remember when the sun would come out, I really was praying for the moon to come, because the moon reminded me it was time to sleep. But then when the sun comes out, it was another day that I needed to survive. So I had to make it happen. And that was my to go to. But I remember as I was making it happen, and I remember that it was coming with some challenges. But I remember that once it was gone, that day is a day that I survived. And that was
The
my
sun will come out tomorrow. I mean, what a song that was. And that came out of what, the 1930s, when the Great Depression. And this little kid, this orphan kid, is singing, the sun will come out tomorrow. Here's something that I want to thank both of you. And one of the things I've noticed is this: when my heart is undefended, when I can be my true self, I see things that are hopeful that I haven't seen. For example, I was working late in my garden. There's conflict there. It's a community garden. And I was working late, and I happened to look up. I'm sweating, I'm dirty. I look up, and this marvelous vision is in front of me: fireflies.
Right.
wow.
There's a lot this year. There's extra.
Yeah, I saw
They're
that.
extra this year. This is the second time I've seen them. And last night I saw them again, and I felt this is divine, because it was hurting my heart that the fireflies have gone, that the bees are dying, all of those transmitters of life and light, they were going away. I mean, we applaud people that cut dandelions, and the bees are going, wait, that's dinner.
Right.
So I want to say, for me, that when I open my heart and open my eyes to what is there as a gift, I see things, and I feel sometimes these are being given to me. These are being given to me so that I can see the beauty, because beauty is truth. Beauty is what uplifts us. Do you feel that as trauma survivors, that the truth is somehow a declaration of liberation for you?
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
So we can get into that another time. Thank you both. And if there's anything you want to say in closing to the folk who are, we can't see your faces, but I can feel your heart. I think we all can. Anything you want to say in conclusion to the folk that are with us that we can't see?
We are going to get through this period of power over, and we are going to bring back the light, and it's going to be okay. We're going to be okay.
Stay courageous, stay true, and we're here. Let us know. Reach out if you need any referrals, any resources, additional help.
And you're not alone.
You know.
One of the most heartbreaking things for a trauma survivor, especially as a little child, is to feel no one loves me, no one sees me, no one cares about me. We do this program because we want you to know that we see you. We hear each other, we see each other, and we see you. And you can come back every week, and we'll be here. So thank you both.
Thank you so much.
Great pleasure. And I will see you next Monday. And Priscilla, thanks for putting the word out. That is fabulous. Priscilla's letting people know.
Yes.
Okay. I thank you guys.
Also, I'm going to be off in August. The first 3 weeks of August, I'm just going to be traveling around visiting, and so I might not be here for the August Mondays. I found out today because of Priscilla that I can get in on my phone too. So I might be able to still join, but we'll see.
Oh, that would be great. Just let us know the week in advance so we can know. Yeah, Priscilla.
I was going to ask if you want to stop recording.
I
Yes.
do. I do. I was about to push that.
Oh,
Okay. So really well, my friends, our friends will see you. Let me stop recording right here. And